declining attention spans, as you all know, in a mobile-first world. One is just a precious few seconds, we just heard that, to get the consumer's attention on mobile. With Facebook Thumbstoppers, powerful storytelling can equally evoke an emotion under 10 seconds. We heard that. It takes less time for a tear, a smile, or a face to go red. And those 10 seconds are perhaps more powerful than a 30-second ad, and they can trigger a positive change in human behavior. Whether you want to sell a product, whether you want to create a great moment, start a new habit, cherish something special, the little big moments in life, or build change for the good. As a part of this program, we invited the entire advertising and marketing fraternity, our partners, to come and join us in this journey and take this Thumbstoppers challenge. To tell stories that they've always wanted to tell about their brand's purpose, or any story right from their heart that moves others' hearts. There are 4 categories this evening in which they could have participated. Breaking stereotypes, start a habit, celebrate little big. Without much ado, we're going to start off with this exciting evening, but we've got something really unique in store for all of you. If you pull out your mobile phones, yes, an award show where we tell you to pull out your mobile phones. Take out your mobile phones for just a moment. Set to start. We're ready to take you into exciting times. You know, it's a world where the mobile phone has become the new teddy bear. Right? That's what you have a real relationship with. People were asked in a survey, saying what would they give up, you know, if they could have their mobile phone. 33% said sex. I don't know who those people were, but that's what they said. About 50% said they were willing to go without electricity or water or food for a day in exchange for that phone. Well, there's something on it. And what is this but video is really skyrocketing. Video consumption is skyrocketing for a while. It continues to do so at an incredible pace. And we are here to talk about video, how the consumer trend landscape has evolved, and how we all have responded with this Facebook family of apps. Facebook is fast becoming the ultimate destination for video creation, consumption, and engagement, bringing people together through video. So please, welcome on stage, as we set open this great evening, Ajit Mohan, Managing Director and Vice President, Facebook India.
Thank you, Roshan. It's really nice to be here and to see a lot of friends and very familiar faces in this room. Thank you for being here this evening. I wanted to spend some time talking about the journey of Facebook in India and how video fits into how we are thinking about the next few years. This is not a number that we've shared in public before, but just to give you a sense of the scale of the Facebook family of apps in India across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Today we have over 400 million people from India across this family of apps. And we're very proud and privileged to serve these 400 million Indians, most of them almost every day. And for us, when we look at the journey of Facebook in India, we believe we have just begun. We are investing a lot in terms of making products that are more local, solving for India, designing for India, and in a lot of ways discovering answers for the world that come out of India. We'll talk about social video today. 2 areas that we are really excited about. One is entrepreneurship. A lot of what we have discovered in India and around the world is that economic growth and job creation happen on the back of small businesses. And we believe that we have a special role, not just because of the scale of the platforms we have in India, but just in terms of what we have seen in the last 15 years, that the smallest business comes to us to reach new customers, whether it's in the same city, in the same state, a lot of times outside India. And we take that mission quite seriously. So a lot of our current effort is really focused on how can we fuel India's aspiration to fuel economic growth and job creation, with entrepreneurship being a big enabler. Equally, we believe one of the biggest enablers to growth in general is financial inclusion. And today we are waiting on what could be a very exciting launch with the right approvals in place for WhatsApp payments. And we believe it could be the single biggest lever for expanding financial inclusion in India in a very short period of time. And the fifth one, what we are calling platforms, is fundamentally starting to think through and invest. What does the future of the new platforms look like? If a lot of the last 10, 15, 20 years was characterized by mobile, what would the next 20 or 30 years look like? And a lot of the investment in the company is really focused on charting that future in AR and VR through our investments in Oculus. But today's conversation is really about video. And I think especially in this audience, I don't need to pitch to you that not just in India, but around the world, video consumption is skyrocketing. This data says that 75% of all mobile data will be video by 2021. There's a lot of research that says that globally, in 10 years, 95% plus of all internet traffic will be video. And I think we see that in our lives every day. And a lot of it, I think as Roshan was saying, mobile is at the heart of it. For many reasons. It's become intuitive, it's become personal, but it's also become increasingly the most dominant screen for video. And yet, if you pause and think about how video has changed over time, we realize that many years ago it was passive. It was a one-way device. That kind of changed to on-demand, when you had, even on the large screen, you had a lot more choice, you could record it, and then it became mobile. It became a lot more personal. As we think about what's next, what comes to us is it's going to be a lot more real-time, it's going to be a lot more active, and communities are going to be at the heart of it. So a lot of our work at Facebook, whether it's what the Facebook app, whether it's Instagram, or even a world you could imagine where a lot of video is being shared on WhatsApp, a lot of our energy is focused on really conceiving what the future of social video could be. What if you bring the power of video to the power of communities? And that's the future of social video that we are charting and we are thinking through. And for us, we see our efforts over the next 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, really working with creators like you in this room to conceive and imagine and execute what that future of social video could look like. In many ways, the mission of Facebook is really being applied here, which is how do you give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together, in this case through video. When we look at what is happening on our platforms already, one of the things we realize that video is a big part of how people engage with our platforms even today. Even before we have fully deployed what the future of social video could look like, disproportionate consumption, whether it's on the Facebook app, whether it's on WhatsApp, where there's more than 800 million minutes of video consumption happening through sharing, and the kind of amazing growth we are seeing on Instagram. Video is a big part of why people come and engage with each one of our apps. And there's a reason for it. When we look at it, each of these apps plays a very different role in terms of how expression happens. And if you look at the last few years, there are formats of all kinds that have exploded with the video at the center of it. Stories on Instagram is now equally powerful on Facebook as well. sharing on WhatsApp. So when we think about it, we understand the unique place that each app has, but we also essentially think about it as innovation in terms of giving each one of you in this room different formats to leverage that scale and find the expression and audiences that are unique for each one of our platforms. On Facebook, for example, we have more than 328 million people who are coming to Facebook every month, and a lot of that engagement is on video. Instagram has clearly differentiated itself in terms of this beautiful visual expression that stands out and is quite different from what's on Facebook. 1 billion stories are shared every day across the platform. That number was almost close to 0 2 or 3 years ago. So that's the scale of the growth that is happening. And all of it is enabled by our focus on making sure that creators in this room have access to all the kind of tools that allow you to bring your expression alive. And a part of this conversation today is about Thumbstoppers and the format. But the work that we do every day, the product managers and engineers, is about really thinking through how do we create new tools that allow you to bring fundamentally new ideas into play if the ambition is around charting the future of social video. And the minute you introduce Oculus into it, it changes the landscape entirely, where all of the conversation that is happening around mobile today gets completely exploded in terms of the dimensions. And I've played around with some of the newer innovations on Oculus Quest, and it fundamentally will challenge each one of you in this room to conceive of storytelling in an entirely different way. And what we're thinking about as a team in India is, if we have platforms that have massive scale, if we are thinking through tools that essentially open up new avenues for creators like you, how do we fuel all of this with things that are meaningful and material for people in this country? And therefore, a couple of early experiments for us is in terms of the kind of things that Indians are passionate about. One is music. So over the last few weeks, you have seen music coming alive on Facebook and Instagram through our partnerships with music labels that allow you as a creator to leverage it, but it also allows the more than 400 million people on our platform to bring music into the storytelling that they do every day. Just to give you an example, this was Madhuri just before she went on stage at the IFA Awards. This was Abhish responding to the most famous music video of all time. I do feel it's a bit wrong to play Madhuri and Abhish next to each other, but we'll forgive that, just to give you the scale of what is possible. And of course, the other big canvas for us is cricket. We made the announcement 2 weeks ago that we are partnering with the International Cricket Council to build an exclusive partnership for all clip rights for the big ICC events for the next 4 years. All of this just gives you a sense of where we are in our journey with the scale of our platform, with the innovation and tools that we're designing for creators like you, and then really looking at what really works in India and finding a way to get this going, to fuel this. But all of it is essentially an invitation for each one of you in this room to join us on this journey as we explore the future of social video. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is going to do better with the applause. Everybody, Kiran, everyone's here to walk down already. You know, the story about mobile, its reach, the strength of video, Maslow's hierarchy has completely changed, right? I mean, you were talking of Roti Kapda Makan and of course then enlightenment, but then at the base of it now, of course, we can't do without our devices and we can't do with much more. At one of these places, a very solemn occasion, someone's funeral, one person turned to the other one, and the priest was sitting next, he said, "What's the Wi-Fi password?" The guy turned and said, "Respect the dead." He said, "All small or all caps?" It's strange. We live in that world. Yes, we do. Let's embrace it, let's acknowledge it. What we really need to know also is that in this world, at any given point in time, storytelling keeps evolving. Pop culture keeps changing. Trends keep changing. And that's why, as storytellers, how can you infiltrate pop culture and stay relevant at scale? Storytelling is an art. It's absolutely timeless. But are all stories timeless? Or do you think what worked 10 years ago, would not work 5 years ago, may not work today at all, and may not have appealed to the audience today, may not even perhaps have acceptance? What's working today may not have had any acceptance a few years ago. So how does a storyteller stay relevant with the times? Let's kick off this celebration of storytelling with a very, very interesting discussion on reimagining storytelling. May I please invite the moderator for this talk, Sandeep Bhushan, Director and Head of GMS, Facebook India. Please put your hands together for Sandeep. Fun fact, the last time Sandeep and I were on stage together, he was playing the drums. And we were rocking to some great numbers. It's amazing. Everyone here has a diverse story to tell, but the person we are calling on stage celebrates her birthday in about 5 days from now, I think. Yes. Born in 1972 on the 14th of October. Zoya Akhtar hails from one of the most talented families that you could possibly belong to. After completing her diploma in filmmaking from NYU, she assisted multiple people, Meera Nair, Tony Gerber, and Dave Bennigal, before turning writer-director in her own right. Fabulous films that she's made, Luck by Chance, it was just a favorite of mine, the mirror that she turned on the film industry. Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, everybody's favorite road trip to Spain. Dil Dhadakne Do, cruise liners suddenly shot up in fame. And then she said, put all this aside and let's go to Gully Boy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's India's nomination to the Oscars. Can we have a big round of applause for
Zoya and I were chatting earlier, and we were discussing about communities and Facebook, and she asked me nothing technical, and I said, yeah, that's WIP, and she's like, exactly, don't WIP me. But I told her I'm here only as a fan, and I can assure you, I'm not the only one. Is that correct? Yeah. So lots of us here, right? So there are many, many congratulations. I think the Oscar piece is the icing on the cake. Many, many congratulations. Are you sleeping well?
Yeah, I'm sleeping well. I'm just a bit overworked because I'm finishing a short film before I fly to LA, so I'm a little overworked. But I'm sleeping well. I mean, I've got a very good shot of 1 in 93. So that's where it's at. Yeah.
That's great. And just wonderful again, privileged to have Zoya join us. And we couldn't think of anyone better as we thought of changing the way stories are being told, even when the medium, let's say, were to be content, in this case cinema. But Zoya, while we're on Gully Boy, the first question is, even when you think of cinema, we think of 2.5 hours or 2 hours. But to me, what struck me on Gully Boy, well before the movie was the trailer, that one dialogue of Alias, the way sort of the walls almost smelled, and the way the character clearly showed up even in the trailer. So here's a movie being told in 2.5 minutes. So something there about storytelling even well before the movie scene.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with trailers is that you have to give a top of the pops of a film. Usually people, like, I don't like trailers where I know everything, unless it's done in an exciting way where I have to see it. With Gully Boy, it was interesting because there were many aspects to the narrative, but we wanted to go with the music. We wanted to let the music, like, take these few songs and let them lead the way. Of course, you have Alia Bhatt in it and Rangblaze, so you have to feature them in a particular way as well, because that's your, that's your star factor. and how do you make that interesting? But it takes a lot of work to cut a trailer.
Yeah, right. The trailer was really the one that I think started building momentum much before we saw the movie. Yeah? One of the interesting debates we've had constantly as we look at the more commercial side of storytelling, which is advertising, is what is the right length? In some sense, it's almost existential whether a story can be told in 10, 30, or 120 seconds. When you look at a format, now we got trailers to movies or any other, how would you frame the question?
You know, I mean, I've worked in many formats. So I've done a commercial that was a minute. I've done a short film which had to be, when in my school I did a short film which had to be like between under 10 minutes. But ghost stories or Bombay talkies, they all have to be between 20 to 25. And then I've done features. And then I've done Made in Heaven, which was 8 hours of content. So the thing is, you can tell a story, people make 5-seconders. You can tell a story in anything, it depends on what you're trying to communicate. And you have to use that particular medium, that particular time to nail it. You know? So when I started writing Made in Heaven with my co-writers Alamrita and Rima, we had only written features. And you know, in features you're constantly trying to contain yourself and cut it down and trim it and tighten. And suddenly you had all this time to build characters, to build stories. It could be a slow burn, you know, you really invest in these people, create their stories, but at the same time, you have to have a macro vision of 8 hours. You have to have something, the track that runs from here all the way down there. It's a completely different beast. So whether it's 8 hours or 10 seconds, they're very different approaches. They're very different ways of putting your idea through, but they are all possible. You know?
I think that's one of the interesting pieces that we constantly are trying to juggle. In fact, one of the key pieces we're trying to look for today is, if time were to be a constraint, how would you turn the frame around? One of the interesting pieces, Zoya, when we especially, if you talk of the cultural context, one of the tricks, if I may call that, you have deployed, whether you go to Dil Dhadakne Do, or you go to Made in Heaven, is how relatable and authentic the characters are. You could almost argue that your characters, each one is an arc in itself and could tell their own story. They come together as an ensemble pretty much in virtually all of your movies. Tell us something about that thinking. How does that character telegraph pretty much to me the entire setup?
I personally particularly like ensembles. I like working with characters, and I think whether it's like, say, 5 characters that were in Zindagi or 25 characters that were in Dil Dhadakne Do, if you have an actor that comes into your film and is there, is part of that story, he better have some heft. You know, he better, you better have, it's not just information, it's not just, there needs to be a rounding off, there needs to be a story behind the story. You know, otherwise it's very boring, it's very dull. We do extensive interviews with people, and then it's a mixture of real people, little imagination, little literature background. You mix everything together and create something. But I like characters, and I feel it's very important to them to have a world that they come from, which may not necessarily be in the film. You write them a backstory, and you tell them this is who they were till the film started. And then, so they operate from that psychology.
And could you therefore argue that once the character has been telegraphed, that could be one of the ways of quickly telling the story? Because a short fleeting shot or a scene could tell a much larger story.
Of course, I mean, see, you can use anything to tell. You know, like I'll give you an example. Like when we were doing Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So the opening credits were the boys getting ready to leave. It starts off, you see them all in different cities, and then the opening credits is all of them are taking a flight from different cities to go to Spain. But it could just be that, or that could tell me that the character of Imran, Farhan, is a mess, right? He's totally last minute, he's completely haphazard, he's completely bohemian. He travels economy, which means his economic space is not that much. When I see Abhay Deol, I see him in a Merc, I see him completely ready. I see him in his first class cabin, it gives me a sense of who he is. And Hrithik is, Arjun is totally OCD. He's he's, he's particular, he's anal, you see him packing, the other two are flying, and he actually goes to bed. So he's packed, he's put his alarm, he's done everything, and he goes to bed and he wakes up. So you get a sense of who they are by the time the opening credits are done. I don't need to say Farhan's a flirt, because you see it with the air hostess. So you just have to add things. Or the scene, I don't know if you all remember the film, but where the character of Hrithik, which is Arjun, comes out of the gym and he bumps into this girl and he's like, how are you? You've been good. And she's like, I'm just going to call you, I'm getting married. And it's just his expression, and he just swallows. And you know that there's a whole history there. You never get into who she was, what happened, but you just know there was history here. And he walks away. He said, wishes her luck and walks away. You don't need to go beyond that. So there are certain things that it can just come out like this. And there are certain things you want to actually get into the meat of, It's how you choose it.
Yeah. I'll change gears to move to you on social media. You mentioned Instagram is your favorite. Tell us how that enables parts of movie making that when you're planning or executing any of your journeys, how does that come together?
Instagram is precious because it's, firstly, I personally think the most positive social media platform there is. It's visual, it's beautiful, I have a lot of positivity that people that follow me. And I follow artists, I follow cinematographers, I follow artists, I follow museums, I follow designers, I follow color palettes, I follow film buffs. So I use it a lot to reference work. I use it a lot for ideas, I use it a lot, I find locations, I find it's very, very interesting. There is one page that is a page on Mumbai, and they just shoot areas of Mumbai, and you find your locations. I use it for work in terms of referencing. I've sometimes used it to connect to another artist. So I use it work-wise for this, maybe.
Interesting. In fact, Ajit made the interesting point of community and video, and we've been speaking about that. How do you see these two coming together in terms of how the whole piece of being able to find related interests or related groups and communication through a video or other formats?
I mean, there are so many collectives. You immediately, it's quite wild because you start following a page. So if you follow a page like, if you leave Instagram, which is an amazing photography collective, you start seeing people that are following it, and then those people those names are following another page you like, and immediately there's a connect. So there is a community that follows the same things. You want to be part of it. I can take a photograph, I can tag it, and if they like my work and they curate it, they put me on the website. So they put me as part of the collective. So I become part of that. Then somebody else from another country will follow me, and that person's a photographer, and I follow them. So it's really interesting in my field to build things. And things that are not in my field that I follow are art. But then again, that helps my field design. I follow bakers. Like, I'm obsessed with cake. I follow bakers. I follow just things, interests. It has things that you can find, things you don't find.
And pups.
And dogs. Dog videos rock.
So put this together and let's talk about globally 2.7 billion people are on our family apps in India. We spoke about 400 million. With this scale now of the little touch virtually every human being to quote you, how do you think, as you now go ahead, both in therefore creation of your movies and pushing out the content to select appropriate communities, or people who are not yet watching your movies, how do you see that coming together for you now?
It's a very fine line also. With social media, you can actually go overboard. I mean, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, it's a truth serum. You look at it, I've known people these years, and then I see their social media and I realize they're absolutely crazy people. So there is a fine line, and you have to decide what of your life you want to put out and what of your life you don't. You have to decide how do you push it. Does it help my career? In what way does it help my career? In what way does it don't? So you're going to have to be a bit smart with it. I come from film. It's absolutely needed for me. Absolutely. But tons of people tell me I should be on another, platform like Twitter. I don't need it. I don't feel I need it. People tell people that you must be there, but it's up to you. It's a personal choice. I use Facebook for different things. I use Instagram for different things, and I don't think they meet, in that way. But it's a great way to speak to the audience that I don't have access to. Because I put my trailer out on Facebook and I get a lot of feedback. I do sometimes an online thing with them when I'm promoting my film, and you get a lot of feedback. You get an instant interest in certain things. People write to you about certain things. So you have to listen, you have to understand. And I think if you take yourself seriously, people don't really troll you. If you're not there just every minute putting your life up, you're not opening yourself up to, so they feel that you're respecting them and you're respected back. So I use it and I feel I get very interesting feedback from it. And actually I use it also because I find other artists.
Coming back to advertising, and that's where you started. If you were to therefore write advertising in the context of the fact that now we have 4 million people online, as opposed to when you started out, when pretty much television would have been the starting point, how would you now look at advertising and its possibilities?
I think people are very smart today. They're consuming too much, and it really also depends on what you're selling. What are you advertising? What are you pushing out? Certain products just require you to be to the point. They're necessary, they're practical, they're pragmatic. You need to be, this is the seat belt. You know what I mean? This is going to save you. I'm saying there are certain products that are like that. There are certain things that you don't want to be in your face with. There are certain times you just want to sell a feeling. There are, and that feeling that should evoke the person to subscribe to what you're selling. There are certain times you just want them to catch on to a particular word. Depends on what you're selling, and you have to then fashion it accordingly and to who you're speaking. I mean, I could be saying the same story to an 80-year-old person and I will speak a particular language. I could say it to my my buddy, and I could be using a couple of 4-letter words. I could say it to a 5-year-old and I wouldn't. The same story would change its language. So when you are clear about who your target is, who are you selling what to, and be honest and true to that, you'll find your audience, and weirdly other people will also respond to the truth of it. People you didn't expect to, So figure who your audience is and figure what you are trying to sell, and then it's easy to fashion.
I think that underlines, the point that a lot of us have been working through on. If you know your audience and you could create communication for that audience, then you could get sharp. Because if you're train, then you can't get sharp. And then I think the second day starts to take a bit of a toll. So let me put this questioning in the form of a show that if you were to now push out, would you, for example, promote Made in Heaven 2, let's say, the season 2 that we hope to see soon? Would you cut, therefore, for different audiences, different communication? You see, therefore, a possibility of positioning films and shows as well using targeting like this?
Yeah, that's what we do. We already do it.
Can you just tell us more, please?
I mean, you already have like a different kind of poster that goes to the interiors of the country. Those posters look completely different from the posters that you see in Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore. You already have a different aesthetic that goes on. The music company will tell you, okay, this song has to be pushed because that is for that audience. Put this dialogue in the trailer. No, put this dialogue. So you already are doing that. You're already tailor-making. You'll have certain videos that you put on social media, certain kind of content you put on social media, but you won't put
one, and which is the one we are showing not yet done. You would have loved to, but it's still waiting.
Which has already been made.
Or not made.
I mean, which is my most interesting one is my most interesting one is always the one I'm currently doing. So that would be Ghost Stories, which I'm making right now for Netflix. And there are so many things that I wish I had done, like Mad Men, Breaking Bad, The Godfather, The Joker recently. There are so many films you see and you're like, oh my god, this is just genius. So yeah, it's just so much to inspire you. There's just work, you just have to be out there and figure. There's also a lot of nonsense, so you have to figure the ones to watch and the ones to follow, and then just, that's it, consume it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zoya, Akhtar, round of applause.
Thank you, that was fabulous. Thank you, all the best ghost stories. We have so many ghost stories.
Just getting इधर आगे मत जाओ हाँ इधर इधर हो यार this क्या
Social media can be a powerful tool. The brief given to them was to get people to change the lives of themselves and others with social media via Vodafone Supernet 4G. Let's take a look at the winning film. Okay, Vodafone and Ogilvy. You can't separate the two. So Austin D'Souza from Ogilvy.
Congratulations, Austin. You were someone to act in your next film. You may have missed that, but Austin loves to act. They're all there in the center. Please put your hands together for the winners. Thank you. Rajdeepak, you've got the honor of doing the last one.
Cool. So the next film is about often we think by donating blood we are helping others. It's time to think again. So the brief was donate to get. Let's see the film.
Ravi flip करके दिखाएगा. Ravi आप flip नहीं करेंगे. You won't flip. Good stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Please a big round of applause for our jury members over there. So ladies and gentlemen, ये rap की नई चीज नहीं है. सिर्फ speed जो है change होगी. अगर आप लोग सोचें, बहुत साल पहले की बात है. ऐ दिल है मुश्किल जीना यहाँ. उस जमाने का. उसके बाद in my time शंकर महादेवन के कोई तो मिला तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था जैसे it happened there, but नहीं. Honestly, ये बात कुछ अलग है because ये दिल की आवाज. My dear friend Akhtar recently said at a conference that there was a time when you were only talking about rhythm, this time EDM, but now people are looking for reason in their rhymes, and that's why I think the success of hip hop. The hip hop movement is really knocking down the barriers of mainstream India's culture. Zoya spoke about it. It was there in her latest film. Using their stories to spread their message, building appeal for their music. It has evangelists, it has fans, with gully rap telling stories that none of us have heard before, both hard stories, and bringing about a change in India with thoughts that are unprecedented. For our next panel, we're talking about reimagining storytelling through music. Please welcome on stage the moderator for the chat, Snehi Mehta, Product Marketing Manager, WhatsApp for Facebook India. Come on, Crash, together with Snehi, everybody.
Thank you, Roshan. I have to start this with a small story, so just bear with me. About 10 days back, I had this ping from a colleague of mine, first thing in the morning. It said, would you share this chat with Nazi? And my first instant reaction, and I'm sorry about this, was, "Kaun hai Nazi?" And enter scene, my 13-year-old daughter. And like all 13-year-olds, she does two things really well. First was an eye roll, looking at me like I've been living under a rock. And second was this whole expression of using short forms. And I thought I had it all mastered with ROFL, LOL, LMAO, and AF. But now they've even stopped that. Nowadays the words are just incomplete. So along with the roll of the eye, what she really tells me is, whatevs, mom, you are hilarious. Essentially, I'm just stupid, I've been living under the rock. But what she did help me with was a whole bunch of links, videos, articles, something that really helped me understand what this beautiful artist was all about. And I have seen Gully Boy, but I have to tell you, I still needed some time to get to know you a little bit better. Your music is epic. I'm a fan now. But what was even more interesting was his story. I think just an inspiring story to see a young rebel turn around and become a revolutionary when it comes to music. So without much delay, Daisy, can we have you on stage? Thank you so much for being here with us. So sorry about that. पहले नहीं जानती थी मैं, but अब मैं PhD कर सकती हूँ आप पे. Like I know everything about you. Okay? You're also someone who made Bombay 70 very famous. So I did not know that Kurla was also called as Bombay 70. I'm going to stop saying I stay in Andheri, I stay in Bombay 53, and that just sounds so much more cooler. Okay. So firstly, thanks a lot for being here with us today. You've kind of created this whole revolution when it comes to mixing storytelling and music. But उससे पहले एक basic question है, आपके नाम के पीछे भी एक story है, तो वहाँ से चालू करें?
जी बिल्कुल. मेरा नाम नेजी जो है वो जैसे पुराने लोग जो शायर हुआ करते थे उनका एक लक़ब होता था, उनका एक पेन नेम होता था. वैसे ही मेरा स्टेज नेम है नेजी. मेरा असली नाम नावेद है और नवेद मुझे घर वाले नवेद बुलाते हैं, स्कूल वाले नावेद बुलाते हैं. और जब मैंने रैप करना शुरू किया तो सब मुझे क्रेजी बोलने लगे कि ये क्रेजी हो गया है. तो नवेद इज क्रेजी becomes Nazy. So that's how I created Nazy. And now it is crazy.
So which is why you're so popular with the teenage audience, क्योंकि वो लोग भी ऐसी बात करते हैं, right? So tell me a little bit, when you started your journey, you have a certain ideology. Your songs are not just about songs, music, there is a theme to it. You often pick up a social issue या मतलब कुछ topical हो, आप उसके पीछे गाना ज़्यादा पसंद करते हैं. आप कैसे decide करते हैं what is it that I need to really be singing about?
So basically, I write the things which are reflecting my expressions, what is happening around me. So if a thing I see is happening around me is not right, then I'm going to write the rap about that. So basically, I used to get caught like this. Cops used to do nakabandi inside my areas for festivals, and they used to just earn money by charging everyone for anything like inside the society, not on the highway. When you are driving inside the society, you don't wear a helmet, but still they are charging you money and letting you go by a bribe. And all of like these are the small things. But bigger things, what I am seeing in the system is not right, and people are suffering, and whatever issues I think which affects me and affects my people, I start writing a rap song about it. So people then take notice, and the young kids are listening to me, so they also understand that I am using this art form as a medium, as a weapon, as a tool to spread awareness or to raise your voice against the bad things in the society. So it's also reflecting, and it's also जैसे बोलते हैं ना एक असर छोड़ है उनके ऊपर. जो जनता मुझे सुन रही है तो उससे काफी फर्क पड़ रहा है, उनमें बदलाव आ रहा है. मुझे आगे कुछ लड़के बोलते हैं कि भाई तुमने रैप में वैसा बोला था ना, वो लाइन तुमने मेरे लिए बोली थी, और मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि तुमने मुझे ऐसा बोला, बुरा बोला है, तो अब मैं वैसी हरकत नहीं करूँगा तुम्हारा रैप सुनने के बाद. So things are happening. It's really happening. Like it's not just for saying कि rap और hip hop एक ऐसा मीडियम है जिससे बदलाव आ सकता है, but it is for real.
That's true actually. And your first video जो आपने बनाई थी आफत, you speak about how that was based on the life of that you had in Bombay 70. Share a little bit about what did you see around in Bombay 70 जो आपको लगा ये एक rap में convert करना चाहिए.
तो बेसिकली मेरा जो पहला गाना था जहाँ से मेरा करियर शुरू हुआ है, वो एक 4 मिनट का फ्री स्टाइल रैप सॉन्ग था. फ्री स्टाइल रैप सॉन्ग बेसिकली फ्री स्टाइल होता है जब आप अपने एक्सप्रेशंस को बाहर निकालते हो. Whatever you are feeling inside, when you are putting it rhymes and in rhythm, and there's a beat on it, that becomes a freestyle rap. So I used to do a lot of freestyle rap.
कि मैं बोलते जा रहा हूँ जो भी मुझे महसूस हो रहा है. As a young teenager, I was very angry with whatever things were happening inside my society, in my colony, in my life, at my college, everything which was affecting me. So I wrote this rap song within a night, the first ever song of mine, Akhtar. I launched myself on the internet by uploading this song on YouTube. So there was no help, no support, no resources, only an iPad and me, and I'm writing things on, recording things on iPad, then video shooting it on iPad, then uploading it, and within a night I'm becoming popular. Like everyone from Honey Sings to Bacha to all of these big guys in rap industry, they are looking at me and they are getting scared. Okay, this guy has come up with something which is very crazy, which is on point, which has the lyricism, which has. So basically, I started Hindi rap. Before me, people used to in the underground scene, they were rapping in English. So what I realized was people are not able to relate to the rappers because they are rapping in some foreign language. But when I started this Bombaya tone and Hindi rap, so everyone started relating to it. So from Akhtar, my first song, I became popular. Everyone started. Zoya ma'am also discovered me through that song. That was my first song. So I was angry, a young teenager. I had no resources. I launched myself on the internet by my own. So it was all word of mouth and my luck that worked for me. So within nights, it reached 1 million and the whole scene changed. Now if you look at it, everyone is doing the same thing that I did in 2014. Everyone is trying to rap the Gali rap, the Bombaya rap, and trying to be like, the trends have changed. Earlier, everyone was trying to be like Honey Singh. Okay, I want to rap about women. I want to rap about objectification or quirky, silly lines of rap about having alcohols and all. Now the trend has changed. Now I want to rap about reality. I want to be that real guy. I want to rap about things which could bring a change in the society. I want to rap about this forest. I want to do journalism through hip hop. I want to be that guy. So this has become the new trend through Gully Boy and all. Now people are discovering us, and the hip hop scene is increasing very fast, and everyone is realizing how crucial hip hop could be in India. To them, okay, who are you to smash me? So then they take interest. So that's how sometimes the beats are interesting, the musicality is interesting, and I need of making your point and still being relevant, still being joyful with your songs.
So एक idea आपके अगले project के लिए Thumbstoppers पे कुछ सोचिएगा जरूर. It's a very good one.
Thumbstoppers में तो मैं on the spot बना सकता हूँ क्या? ब्लॉगर्स, मैं करता हूँ रैप करता जब माइंड में ब्लॉगर. यहाँ पे मुझे मिला थम्सटॉपर से मिला अब कम हिप हॉपर. यहाँ पर हिप हॉपर लोग आए और बचा के जाए क्योंकि फेसबुक की शाम बहुत आलीशान है. नीज़ तबाम मेरा एक ही नाम है. यहाँ पर करने को रैप ये हिंदुस्तान है, उसको बताने को असल हिप हॉप मेरा काम है. क्या
जैसे कि आपका फर्स्ट सॉन्ग आपने कहा आपने iPad पे पूरी तरह से शूट किया था and it was very scrappy, right? You did everything by yourself. If you had to redo that all over again, let's imagine 2014 में and आज आपके पास Instagram जैसे platforms हैं, Facebook है, WhatsApp है, आप क्या अलग तरीके से करते? Would there be anything different that you would do?
If today was 2014.
Yeah, and you were all
because since the consumer have increased now and everything has become free and there are more audience on the internet than what it used to be in 2014. So I would have done something else. I would have planned accordingly because I thoroughly researched about what is happening in the scene before releasing my first song. So I was always looking at the videos which were reaching like 200, 300 views. Only 200 views, imagine that. Only 200 people watching their videos. And my video got 1 lakh views. So at that point, there was less audience.
So, but now if I want to do that again, I would take another route. Maybe I would concentrate on Facebook or Instagram more than YouTube. Earlier I was only on YouTube, so I would have done like I would have promoted my song before releasing it. It wouldn't have been a surprise drop. I would have spread a word about my song is coming out, tell people about it, उसको Instagram पे promote करता, उसके साथ कुछ freestyle rap ऐड करता, कुछ teasers बनाता था और कुछ interesting करता, या तो activities शुरू करता, challenges करता, कुछ तो उसके साथ बहुत कुछ कर सकता था अगर मुझे इतनी knowledge उस वक्त होती तो, लेकिन मुझे उस वक्त कुछ पता नहीं था इस दुनिया के बारे में, मैं बहुत दूर था इस दुनिया से, इंटरनेट की दुनिया से, मैं याहू पे PBM पे टाइम पास करता था, नोकिया का फोन हुआ करता था मेरे पास जिसमें सिर्फ कलर स्क्रीन थी 6030, उससे मैं खुश होता था कि कलर स्क्रीन है बहुत मजा आ रहा है बेसिकली, लेकिन अभी दुनिया बदल गई है तो अभी मैं अलग तरीके से करता अगर कुछ करता था।
So that's interesting. और आपकी ऑडियंस कई सारी भी फिलहाल शायद वो 30 पे है, but they still listen to your music and that's the kind of spread that you have. एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन, राइट? सो आपने कहा आप अपने अगल बगल में देखते हैं व्हाट्स इम्पोर्टेंट, आप उस तरह से स्टोरीज चूज करते हैं। किसी एक स्टोरी के बारे में बताइए which has really moved you, जो आपने देखा और आपने अपने सॉन्ग में उसको लोगों के पास लाया है। Can you share one such story?
जी जरूर। तो बेसिकली मैं जिस नेबरहुड में रहता हूँ वो बहुत उसका नाम खराब है, मैं अभी तो शिफ्ट हो गया हूँ कुर्ला में मैं पढ़ा बचपन से, तो कुर्ला का नाम सुन के पब्लिक डर जाती है, अपना पॉकेट वॉकेट चेक करने लगती है, गायब तो नहीं हो गया। तो बेसिकली वहाँ पर बहुत पॉवर्टी है, बहुत एजुकेशन सिस्टम नहीं है कोई, और मतलब सबको भट्टाई भाषा ये सब कूल लगता है कि भट्टाई कूल है ये, लेकिन उनको मालूम नहीं वहाँ पे सही स्कूल नहीं है, उनका सही एजुकेशन नहीं हो रहा है, ये सब पे कोई ध्यान नहीं देता है। तो बेसिकली मैं कोशिश ये करता हूँ कि लोगों को रियलिटी बताऊँ। तो मुझे स्टोरी याद है, मैं देख रहा था कि मेरे घर के पीछे, मैं जिस बिल्डिंग में अभी शिफ्ट हुआ था उसके पीछे एक एरिया है जो ब्रिज के जहाँ से एक ब्रिज जाता है, SCLR ब्रिज है और बहुत बड़ा ब्रिज है, वो वहाँ से रोज अमीर लोग वहाँ से गुजरते हैं बड़ी बड़ी गाड़ियाँ लेके, और वो ब्रिज के नीचे मैं देख रहा हूँ कि कैसे एक लाइफ है और उन लोग जी रहे हैं, बहुत सारे लोग वहाँ पे टेंट बांध के जी रहे हैं, बहुत सारे लोगों ने ऐसी जमीन पे कब्जा कर रखा है। तो एक दिन मैं वहाँ से गुजर रहा था और मैंने देखा कि कुछ बच्चियों को उसकी माँ मतलब they were doing urinals and all on the road itself। तो वो मुझे एक चीज़ बहुत बुरी लगी देखकर, और मुझे ऐसे लगा यार लड़कियां हैं, बच्चियां हैं और उनका भी कुछ रहता होगा, अदब तहजीब रहती होगी, उनको भी पर्दे में रहना चाहिए ये सब चीज़ें करते समय। तो मुझे वो बहुत बुरा लगा, तो मेरे दिल पे लगी वो बात कि मैं इनके लिए कुछ करूँ। तो मैंने अपने गाने में लिखा है, मैंने ऐसे गाने में लिखा है कि लड़की वहाँ पर रो रही है, वहाँ पर पैसों की बड़ी बोरी है, गवर्नमेंट के पास पैसों की बड़ी बोरी है, 2G 3G QG कितनी इनकी चोरी है, चोरी तो चोरी ऊपर से सीना चोरी, लड़की वहाँ पे रो रही, वो रास्ते पे ही थोड़ी, वो सस्ते में पली बड़ी हो रही। तो ऐसा मैंने उसके बारे में रैप लिखा था, और वो बच्चियों के बारे में, वो लड़कों के बारे में मुझे बहुत फील होता है। मैं उनको खाना ले जाके देता हूँ, मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि उनको मैं स्कूल ज्वाइन करवाऊँ, तो ये सब चीज़ में मैं अभी इंटरेस्ट ले रहा हूँ। तो धीरे धीरे जब मैं सही पोजीशन में पहुँच जाऊँगा तो मैं कुछ ना कुछ उनके लिए करना चाहता हूँ लाइफ में।
चैट एक रैपिड फायर के साथ एंड करते हैं, बट आपके साथ वो करने का मतलब नहीं है क्योंकि आप नॉर्मली वेरी रैपिड होते हैं, लेकिन आप हमेशा रैपिड होते हैं। सो वी डू वांट टू क्लोज दिस विद अ सॉन्ग, वी कांट लेट यू गो विदाउट हैविंग लाइक सम अ सॉन्ग फॉर अस। So anything that's top of mind?
Let's do this, my new release exclusively for Facebook guys.
Okay. Can we have the music please?
फिर से आ गई Facebook के लिए एक बार जनता सुनेगा तो मैंने वो बड़ा दिल्ली इलाके में पिताजी के पट्टे खाया मुझे लिखी लाफे दे हरकतें खुराफाती सब लोग खिलाफी थे मतलब
That was really, really wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You know, आदमी इंस्पायर हो जाता है घर में अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम हो. She was talking about sodium. मैं वो सोचता था, you know, कि अगर घर पे कभी कुछ खाने में इशू हो जाता तो क्या कर सकता था, you know. You could always tell से कि NaCl की छाप तेरी करी में, नमक हो गया ज़्यादा ज़रा हरी में. इसके बाद बनता जाएगा, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. लेकिन करी हरी भरी चल सकता है. लेकिन एक बात माननी पड़ेगी कि जिस तरीके से नेजी चीजों को कैप्चर करता है, साथ लाता है, बहुत हार्ड है भाई. जरा एक बार जोर से ताली बजाएं. Really, really super. So we want to move on to a really inspiring story. Storytelling with impact, where we focus on stories that evoke behavioral change, stories that connect us, give a world a new meaning, stories that showcase the power of human resilience, the power of community to transform lives and bring out the best in us. It's really a powerful testament to the many ways that the concept of community itself has changed. We saw music and storytelling, but now the Thumbstopper for social good conversation. So Thumbstoppers for social impact, intended to bring out the good in this community. Please welcome our moderator for this next discussion, Neha Markanda, Head of Business Marketing, Facebook India.
Today we also have with us renowned Bollywood filmmaker Ms. Kiran. She's worked in films like, yes, big round of applause. I don't have to say this, but she's worked in films like Lagan, Monsoon Weddings, Swades. She's produced films like Tare Zameen Par, Peepli Like, Dangal, and my absolute favorite, Secret Superstar, and the television show Satyamev Jayate. She's also written and directed Bodyguard. She was the chairperson of the Mumbai Film Festival Board between 2015 and 18. She's been a key partner of this entire Thumbstopper program. It's been a pleasure, ma'am, to have worked with you. She made 2 absolutely astounding films, which we will talk about in a little while, and she's back here for more. Can't wait to get started. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kiran. Concept that appealed to you as a creator and at a personal level?
So actually at the outset I should say I had never done an ad before I did Thumbstoppers. It was the very first, my foray into any kind of short format filmmaking since film school, you know. And this wasn't just short format, it was 10 seconds. And it was, I think, the challenge of being able to tell a story effectively in that time that made me want to try it out, you know. I was just intrigued with the idea that we could do something like that. It was also the sort of almost greed to do something vertical format and see how that would work, because I found in my own behavior I've started, thanks to Instagram and, you know, wanting to post stories and things, shooting things vertical. And I was thinking of what it would be if I extended it into actual narrative storytelling versus just, you know, sort of capturing life and documentary stuff, and whether it would be effective, whether I'd be able to actually get, you know, all these beats in 10 seconds. So it was more the challenge of it that made me want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we pushed the envelope when it came to time, but we also pushed the envelope when it came to the message, because the first 2 films that we partnered with you on were 2 very strong social issues that are prevalent in our society. I'd request for those films to be played once here for the audience, and then maybe we can talk about it. So powerful, strong, socially relevant messages conveyed in that tight duration. What was your experience like? Because this was the first time that you mentioned that you were doing this kind of storytelling.
Yeah, so it was really quite exciting, because there was, as a filmmaker, I realized I'd have to really sort of do a previs, like a proper board for it because you'd have to hit those beats. Because actually I had 8 seconds. It wasn't even 10. The last 2 seconds go in saying, Facebook's Thumbstoppers really. So, and any product which is going to use this window will want to, sort of put in their names. In 8 seconds, there was a lot of business in both these commercials. And, there was this glass, you had to also establish, one is half, one is full, then the boy we also wanted to establish this boy's look to his mother of resignation that again you've given me more than my sister, that for me it was important to tell it in an emotional sort of storytelling way, rather than make it just sort of about equality. It was more about this boy kind of not even passing judgment, but being like, not again, and then doing it. So if you remember, we tried to do it without, because that was an important moment we tried to cut that out. Boys look to the mother, but we wanted to retain it. So there was all this business that needed to happen, and at the end of it, we needed this, sort of moment between the brother and sister, and the idea that that this change is possible to show in a very sort of brief interaction between two people. Really, it's not something momentous, but it's an acknowledgement that the sister has for the brother, and I really had to literally draw the frames, and this particular milk commercial we did with non-actors. I wanted kids who were just sort of easy children who would just, and it's really tricky because in a vertical format you have to work in this sort of axis where you have to include. The second you try to include people more frontally, you're further away, right? And in this one needed the look to the glass, look to the mother, pouring of the milk, all of that. So I think my experience of it was also as a filmmaker, we are so accustomed to letting actors kind of do their thing and cutting in post and working around performances. But here I really had to nail that look in that briefest period of time for both this and the other one. The other one, she kind of exchanges a phone for the ice pack. So for me as an experience, it was actually a lot of discipline for me, to get those frames very exactly the way I'd imagined them. So it was a really exciting experience actually. I think my second set of films are better visually also, because I've now gotten accustomed to the idea of how you work that sort of 9:16 format.
Yeah, it's just so lovely to I can almost see that you're recalling and reminiscing the exact process that went in. And you briefly touched upon this, Kiran, but really this format of storytelling versus the cinematic format of storytelling. Aside from getting those moments, what are some of the key mindset changes, approach, readiness, anything that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I'd like to think that this can also be cinematic. Firstly, I don't want to differentiate this from cinematic storytelling. To my mind, because it's vertical, because it's digital, because it's short format, it's meant for a certain kind of viewing. I don't think that it should not be cinematic. For me, cinematic is sort of effective and beautiful communication through visuals and music and possibly dialogue, and So for one, I think this needs necessarily to be cinematic. Possibly the only difference is that you cannot you can't do landscapes. You could, but they're not as effective in the vertical format. I'm sure we'll find a way to do it well. But other than that, I don't see that there's that much difference, except that because it's visual, because it's vertical, you can't, it's when you want to actually have more than 2 or 3 people in a frame, there is the limitation of not being able to be close enough to certain, but other than that, I think that this can be a highly cinematic medium.
Sure. One of the things, at least personally for me, that intrigues me is that, when you have the luxury of a long format of content, you can do a lot to establish probably the characters, give them a background, and and therefore lead up to their aspirations and behavior. In this format of storytelling, how do you go about establishing characters?
I'd like to say, firstly, that a lot of it is in the writing. For this next lot of films, you'll see like there's characters that are kind of established in a particular way, and you then have to film them. But in this kind of duration of time, you'd have to, to my mind, a script you'd have to write for this format, because you have to give a person a character trait that has the payoff by the 8th second. You'd have to work it in a way that one is it has to be kind of simple, so that there's not as much happening as maybe in a commercial you normally have, just for time. And then through the whatever the character does, their character is revealed. But other than that, I mean that's the difference, because you don't have a setup time, so you have to get right to it.
Which I think both of these films truly had. And now when we move on to the next ones, you'll notice this even in a more pronounced way. So when we partnered with Kiran early on, we really found that there were very provocative social messages that were delivered through those two films. This time, together, we kind of went a step further, and we did not want to kind of leave it at just a social message, but actually drive social impact and get users to actually act. It's with a lot of pride that I, together with Kiran, want to now unveil the next set of films, and then we get talking about it. This is truly social impact. Request your attention, please. Thank you. This is the first time we're airing these films.
And of course, he made my job harder by making me do a lot more in 8 seconds than I'd done previously. But I like the ideas very much. And there was a sort of lightness about it, and not this sort of didactic kind of, you must, it's your social duty, etc. It had a sense of, the fact that we just need to be aware of it, and all of us need to go out and do it, and it's not this heavy social burden as much as something that whoever can go out and donate blood and is medically fit. In fact, it's a great way to check if you're medically fit, is to go out and donate blood. And I think it's quite amazing that you guys have done this, because I wasn't aware until this campaign that India is short on donors. I think we are one of the countries that requires much more blood donation, and 1 unit of blood saves 3 lives, can save up to 3 lives. And there was a lot that I learned as a result of doing this. And yeah, these were fun, commercials to do. We kind of did them in a really short span of time, and that kind of made our lives even more exciting. But it was fun. I mean, I think, especially for me, the train commercial was great fun because I felt like I'd visually also gotten accustomed to the vertical space, and it was just my chance to sort of cram that train with as much as I could without sort of impeding the action and covering action. But I had a lot of fun doing these commercials.
It was fantastic. I think the partnership and the speed of execution on this time was, I think that will make for an interesting backstory. So Kiran, you of course been, part of this Thumbstopper journey from the outset, pretty much. There are a lot of people in the audience who are also on this journey, some who will probably initiate this in times to come. From your experience, what would you say to the audience here, how to make fabulous Thumbstoppers? Some key points.
So I think just with respect to brevity, I think these films are a great challenge for anyone who writes, because they literally are, I'm sure lots of people here are writers in the room and they know how every word counts and how, everyone's chasing that perfect line. It's a bit like that for a filmmaker in this one. So you feel a bit like a writer in film, you're like every frame needs to count, otherwise it can't be there. And that's a lovely challenge to have actually. As a consumer, I've seen how my sort of watching habits over the years have changed. And in a sense, I watch much more on my phone than I could have ever thought of watching some years ago. So it's a space that everyone's looking to, sort of use in some way. And I think as filmmakers, it's something that we need to step up and learn. Of course, it's not that it in any way diminishes my love for long format filmmaking or watching things that are sort of 4-hour-long lovely as films, but I think it's a language that's good to have, and it also teaches you a lot about, it taught me a lot about that capturing that nuance. Really, every frame in this one counts. You literally have 8 into 24 frames. So I think for everyone out there, I think it's an opportunity really to kind of showcase what you can do with an idea with just the minimal of resources. Like you have only that much. I really felt like as a filmmaker, it's going to help me approach feature filmmaking differently. It's because I know how much time people have and how quickly people get it in many ways. And in features we so often tend to be, what's the word for it? Indulgent. So yeah, I think it's a nice format for everyone to try.
No, but to hear you say that this is going to influence your thinking is just fantastic endorsement. You've been an inspiration, Kiran. I mean, the earlier films, even now, I think it's going to inspire everybody in the room to do great work. Before we let you go, I'm going to take the liberty of putting you in a little bit of a spot. Of the work that you have seen as part of the entire Thumbstopper challenge, what the audience has seen, any personal favorite that you want to call out?
Okay, so from the first few films that you have made, I like the one with the cake and getting the cake out for the. Are we also discussing those or this new 18?
The new 18.
The new lot. The new lot. I really liked the umbrella film. That was quite beautiful, and that really is it's like 3 shots and you kind of understand what's being said. It's also, I feel like that's a lot about writing. It's such a simple idea that the simpler you make it, the more effective it is in Thumbstoppers, in this format. That and the ladies and the bharas is quite memorable, filling the bathtub. Yeah, and perhaps the dabba one is nice.
I'm so glad I asked her for one. She's told 3. Talks a lot about the recall value. Thank you so much, Kiran. It's always a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you.